What is up, everyone? Welcome into another episode of Talkin Grizz. I'm Kelcey. I'm joined all the way from Denver with Katy Winge, the Denver Nuggets reporter, analyst, and host. Thank you so much for being here. We're excited to see you guys. Whew.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I wish I could be doing this in person with you guys. I feel like I say that anytime I do one of these things, but hopefully that time will come sooner rather than later. But the important thing is we're talking hoops. So we have great things to talk about, great things to discuss, and a lot to obviously hope for and look forward to.
Yeah, hoping to do this again next year in person. Okay, well, let's kick it off. The second half of the season, we had one game against Washington. Our guys came out super hot. We kind of knew, every team kind of knows. There's like something that you know off of tip. You're like, the guys are going to play well tonight. Now, you guys haven't had a game yet, so this will be your first against the Grizzlies. What's that thing that you see with this team where you're like, it's going to be a good night or it's going to be a little slow?
Yeah, it's interesting because the Nuggets have been like the best first quarter team in the NBA, at least in the first half of the season. They've had a couple exceptions to that rule, but you can feel it within the starting group when they come out. If the ball is moving, if the first couple baskets are assisted, if they're layups, usually when they score around the rim first and then work their way out, really good things happen for Denver's offense. But Kels, it's been so hard to get any sort of feel because this team has been fighting injuries literally since the beginning of the year. So it's like when one guy heals, another guy gets hurt. Rotations have constantly been changing. It's been totally a next man up mentality. So I don't know if there's necessarily one thing that I can be like, if they're doing this, it's going to be great. A lot of it has to do with defense. If their defense shows up too, and they can get a couple steals within the first quarter, or at least deflections, like looking for those early on, then you kind of like take a breath and you say, okay, they brought it on both ends, or they're coming with that urgency and that very specific intensity. They're going to put themselves in a position to at least, have a chance to win this game, to compete. So looking for that, it's like it is totally a feel. Like it's like an energy, something in the air that you're like, okay, are the guys here? Are they ready to play, or are they still on all-star break? That sort of thing.
It's funny not funny at all to hear you talk about battling injuries, because I feel like we're both the teams, the Nuggets and the Grizzlies, are in the same boat, and they've been doing this one player here, on and on and on.
Yeah.
But this is one team also that we haven't seen this season. So this is the first of 3 meetings with 2 rosters that have been battling these injuries. Do you think it makes it easier going into this being like, you know what, fresh faces, or harder, like, oh, we're coming back from All-Star and we haven't seen these guys yet?
Yeah, I don't know if it's necessarily easier or harder, but I think the Nuggets really struggle to match up with Memphis. You guys are a team that like plays really fast. You have really quick guards. You live in the paint. And Denver's on-ball defense has not been stellar by any means. They make up for it with like their second and third efforts and their rotations and their fly-around mentality. But in terms of like keeping really quick guards, John Morant in front, like that is going to be a handful for this entire Nuggets team, and absolutely not on one player, but on the full team to like wall up the paint. So we'll see. I think it's like, okay, we haven't seen this team before, completely new game plan. Who are the personnel that we need to know? So maybe it's a little bit more difficult just in terms of like having to up that focus, not only with like your first game back, but like, okay, who are these guys and what do we need to know? We haven't seen them before. Maybe it's a little bit trickier, but maybe that's helpful. And like, okay, I know I need to hone in. This isn't a game where I can just like show up and play. I know that I need to like really study and pay attention to what we want to do on both sides of the basketball.
Okay, you brought up John Morant, and obviously we love bragging about him, but I was looking up the Nuggets team. I know Nikola Jokic is good. I knew that.
Of course.
I did not know that he's leading in points, rebounds, assists, steals,
category, yes.
Everything. I had no idea. So now my thought goes to, I watch your keys before the games. I'm sure we'll see it tomorrow. Yep. Is one of these keys going to be the matchup between these 2 big guys? JV had a big night against Washington on the first game back.
Yeah, I'm super excited for this matchup. The thing with Jokic, though, like you mentioned, like he's leading in every category. So much of the Nuggets' success has been like everybody else, because you know what you're going to get from Jokic. Other teams show up and they're like, okay, how do we potentially try and at least slow this guy down? but a lot of times they fail. So there have been teams coming in that have basically been saying, you know what, Jokic is going to do Jokic. We're not even going to send a double team. We're going to let him go one-on-one. And if he gets buckets on us, then he scores on us all night, but we're not going to let the other guys score. And that's actually been, I mean, that's hurt the Nuggets down the stretch. And in a couple games, they've lost games because it's been like Jamal and Nikola, and you're like, who else is going to run with these guys? A lot of that, again, has to do with the depth and the injuries as well. But, I mean, Jokic coming off All-Star, he's been playing so insanely well, like indescribably well. It's a basketball blessing to be able to watch him every single night. It's like my jaw drops at least once a game, and I've been covering him for like 3.5 years now. So never ceases to amaze me. So yes, that matchup will be a really good one. I'm more looking forward to the Ja and Jamal matchup.
Ja and Jamal.
Yeah,
so
and
seeing kind of like the 1 spot and the 5 spot.
100%, yes. And how that 2-man game will work, and how they'll like hit the rollers, how they'll find their own spots, how they'll get to the basket. Like that, like the pick and roll and the 2-man game between those two, I think it's going to be fun to watch and fun to like dissect and see what they're able to get on each other.
I'm excited. This is always one of the games that I liked. Like last year, loved playing the Nuggets. I'm excited to see you guys. It feels like we haven't seen you in forever. Thank you for coming on today. Have a great game tomorrow.
Thanks.
This is 1 of 3, right? So
1 of 3. We'll do it again.
Thank you, Katie.
Yeah.
And everyone else, you can get more on grindcitymedia.com.